host, Vince Edwards. You may know me from Sound Image Productions. I also have a couple closed Facebook roadie groups, one called The Backstage Pass and another called Death by Loadout. Come and check us out. We get up to some shenanigans over there. With me tonight is my good friend and co-host, Kyle Thomas. How you doing, brother?
Not too bad, man. How about yourself?
Well, I'm not as good as you because you slipped away today and got yourself a professional haircut. What the hell?
Haircut.
I need to get a phone number. I need to get some kind of information.
Dude, I tried to drag you along. You were like, no, you do it. You look like
I was writing.
you
a
look
script,
less than
man.
representable.
I was a little busy at the time, you may recall. But
I told my barber, I was like, thank you for the barber encouragement. Made me feel good to vent to a barber. I haven't done that in a few months.
Oh, I get it. The kind of therapy that goes on at the barber stool.
Dude,
was this a legit barber? You know, the candy cane.
He's my guy now. He's my guy.
Right on. All right. Well, we're gonna have to talk after the show. I'm gonna need this information. Now, my Betty's has been hooking me up, and she's, I mean, the sweetest chick in the world. She's a businesswoman. She runs her own personal little killer ass store. What she isn't is a hairdresser. But she also doesn't want to hang out with a kind of minor hippie. And so I literally had to Amazon send me some hair cuttings as we were using the stuff in the butcher block, and it was a joke. But she does it when it's happening, and she does a really good job. But I'm a little past due.
You look slick, man. You gotta give it a couple more weeks.
That's like
to get
3 pounds of hair product.
I can tell. I see you get ready, man. I know what's there.
So bad. The worst thing.
It's all business in the front, and it's just a big pile of matted hair and gel.
Part of that, I'm going to punch you. Part of that is the hood. You know, I'm wearing the Alice Cooper tour.
I know it hides. It hides.
And it's pushing everything up back there. So whatever. I was watching one of our shows from. Look at tonight. We've got checking in with us, Mr. Steve Orgain. He was here today. That's the owner and the amazing chef over at Chef's Touch. And I know he has a relationship with our guest. He's done a lot of cooking and catering for big shows for our guest. And of course, our dear friend Pat Igerman, who we mentioned today together.
Pat, we were just talking about you in the most loving and endearing way.
How you been like going off a little bit on Facebook, and we like to see that side of you. Can you drag the list down for me, please?
Oh, that's it. That's where we are.
The guys from the infirmities, Jason, hey brother, Jayhawk is sending out to us, and of course the lovely Susie Dugan.
Hi, darling.
And who else has checked in with us, buddy? We got some friends.
Scott.
It's Pat
Scott
O'Doul
Chaney.
and Scott Chaney. He's a badass. Hey, thanks for tuning in, guys.
You didn't tell me Pat O'Doul was going to be coming, but he told
Pat's
me
coming.
in the comments.
I got Pat coming.
I'm going to be here Wednesday,
I need
Pat.
you to check in on that. And oh, by the way, I mentioned, and I may need your help with this. I wonder if you will consider this. Tomorrow, I'm going to do an episode with the Pod Pixie. With the singer for Anvil Lips and a couple other badasses in the metal scene.
Hanging out with rock stars again.
I'm helping out a friend. The rock stars thing, I can take or leave. But it's my position on that. If they're paying, I'm all in. It's super good. I'm going to be nice this show. Behave. Sorry, Mary. Regardless, it's been an interesting week, I guess we could say. We put a whole year of crazy into one day yesterday, and we're not going to talk much about that.
No,
but
let's talk about what you did for New Year's, Bubba.
What did I do for New Year's? I know I hung out. Oh, I was with Al for the day, and then I got in my car, and something took me forever to get down to my house, in my Betty's house in Carmel. And it's really up in the hills, just up from Laguna Seca. It's kind of between Salinas and Carmel. It's technically where it's at.
Beautiful area.
It's fantastic. And oh my God, there's my girl right now. I love her so much. I love you, baby.
Hey, Jackie.
And Johnny Del Rio, it's so good. And Jorge Eduardo, that's my brother.
Eduardo.
Yes. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. But then I got in the car. I ate late, and I was like, "Oh hell! I got to be there by midnight to bring in the new year." And I swear to Christ, I made it. I got in and pulled in, and like 5 minutes till 12, and got in the house. And we, of course, always are happy to see each other and kiss and stuff. And so that first kiss of coming together almost exactly lined up with the ringing in the on TV or whatever, the ball was dropping or all that type of stuff.
You can say whatever you want to cover up the fact that you were late.
I wasn't late. I was late in the evening, and I think she would preferred me to be there earlier.
You missed the hors
but
d'oeuvres.
she's so sweet. She never really puts that heat on me because
she's so sweet.
Yeah, she's just the greatest. But I could have been there earlier, and I should have. But I didn't miss the 12 o'clock deadline part where you ring in the new year, where the day changes and it's 12:01 like that. I actually made it, but it was, by the skin of my teeth. So I'll do better, honey. Again, she's so good to me. I want to give a shout out to my chick and her lovely mother, Bev Hartnell. I believe they're watching this show right now. So I hope you girls are having a good evening, having dinner together.
Darcy Lewis chimed in.
Darcy Lewis. Oh, this is a friend of Mary's. Well, let's just cut right to it because we got a beefy show. We're going to be trying to be more careful with reining in the time. And our guest coming up is just got history and crazy stories. It's just like so good. Let me get thank you. It's so good to see you. And
you too, brother.
And I hope you had a great New Year's as well.
I did.
No, I'm glad to hear it. Tonight we've got a seriously special guest. I mean, I can't say this enough. She's come up through the ranks. She's done damn near every job in the game to get to the position she's in. She's one of the biggest promoters in Northern California and parts Las Vegas. She stretches out. She is senior vice president for the amazing production company Another Planet Entertainment. She's an incredibly lovely woman. We have been lucky enough to work with her, I want to say, over the past 30 years, easy, probably more.
You picked a good gold nugget for this.
Yeah, this is like big deal stuff, my friends. And I can't thank her enough for being here. It's really, she's a special person. It's the one and only Mary Conde. How are you, dear?
Well, thank you. That's such a great intro. Thank you very much.
If you notice, I didn't write that intro. I write my intros usually, but that one was from the heart. I had enough history with you to be just to wing that because you're an impressive woman. You've been and done and seen. I think there's a number that we batted around. I think you've done well over 10,000 shows.
I think
with
so.
more than 3 million attendees in a regional market.
Yeah.
I mean, it's impressive. You're the boss of some of the biggest and talent booker, and really you handle every level of the game. A lot of stuff, a lot of roadies and people that are probably listening right now probably don't realize it goes into the work. Let's dig into it. I got this further in this show, but first of all, I want to know how you've been doing.
I'm really incredibly grateful. Like my word for 2020 was gratitude. I have so many blessings. I mean, I've got stability in my job. I've got stability in my housing. In a year where people in the industry are so deeply impacted by this pandemic and really hurting, it just makes me more grateful and more in tune with like, wow, I have a lot of blessings, and I've got. And I want to find avenues to display that, to show that, and volunteer opportunities and other things that I've done with community engagement and toy drives and things like that, to like, how can I give back because I have so much.
Well, I know that's a big part of your makeup and what drives you and gives you a peace in your heart and a sense of purpose and satisfaction. I know this beyond the rock and roll, and we were talking before the show. And I know you mentioned that you've done and let's preface this by saying to do what you do, it's very important that you understand the permitting process, how to deal with fire and police and the venues and all these things. And so I know you have a relationship with SFPD folks and got into an SFPD toy drive fundraiser.
Yes, well, for the past 5 years, this is the 6th year that the Bill Graham Civic was a big part of the SFPD toy drive. And this year, without any shows, there's no way to solicit donations. So we had to get really creative, like, oh, well, where's this money going to come from? And we cooked up the idea of creating a commemorative SFPD patch. And there's a lot of law enforcement officers that collect patches. And we did this design that's really cute with a Christmas theme on it.
Is it this patch here on
it is that
on
patch.
Screen? Yeah, it's
cute.
wonderful. You did a great job.
I donated 1,500 of those patches to the toy drive, which netted us $15,000, which enabled us to buy 2,000 toys. And we went to kids in every district in San Francisco and gave out 2,000 toys. So it was like, 2 weeks of just insane love and happiness, and kids that are happy, like every day, like, I'm going to go to work today and go see these kids at the rec center and give them a Barbie doll and a set of Legos. It was pretty awesome.
Well, that's a fantastic mission and project for you to have involved yourself with, and I'm sure they're extraordinarily grateful. I know that you mentioned that you have some patches left, and this is an ongoing concern. Is there any way for the folks in my audience to acquire one of these?
Yeah, if you reach out to me, you can message me on Facebook. And I have less than 50 of the patches left if anybody wants to buy one to support. We're still raising money for next year's toy drive. As I said, this is 6 years in the works. So it's a really fun program that we're involved in.
And that's Conde, C-O-N-D-E.
Correct.
All right. Reach out to Mary if that's something that interests you and helping the little people. That sounds like a perfect, wonderful thing. Here at the show, I know the audience and myself are interested in the origin story. How did you get into the business?
Well, I grew up in the Bay Area, went to a Day on the Greens in high school.
Sure.
Pretty much whoever was playing, we knew it was going to be fun. Like, let's go to the Day on the Green.
Absolutely. Those are great shows.
And when I graduated high school, I had a friend who was a volunteer at a Journey Day on the Green, and they were looking for people to come help. So it was 1982. Someone asked me, like, hey, you want to come volunteer at this concert? And the idea of working at a Journey concert that was being presented by Bill Graham, I was like,
great.
What? Are you? Of course, I'll be there for real. And that one day, that one show, that was it. Everything turned left, and I was like, all right, this is what I want to do.
Well, you mentioned that I know that you went on from the volunteering place to actually working with Bill Graham Presents, BGP as we call it up here,
right?
Which is, as a production house and an entertainment platform. I mean, that's big dog right there. How was that working in that organization?
It was amazing. It was really it's Laguna Seca, the Laguna Seca days that we did. Mountain air festivals. Opening up Shoreline. It was an amazing place to be, and I feel like I went to Bill Graham University, and that there's a few of us that all came around in the early 80s that are still working in the industry that, I feel like we're sort of in a fraternity together.
In many ways,
we graduated from BGU.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And we, it went from being doing security and an usher and working in the box office and being a runner to working as a promoter rep, and then becoming the director of production for Another Planet Entertainment when we started in 2003, which evolved into, we took over the Bill Graham Civic in 2010, and I had so many great memories of shows we've done at the Bill Graham Civic that I really wanted to just embrace that and be there all the time.
Well, you're jumping a little ahead, and I don't blame you because your career path is extraordinary and exciting, and you are kind of situated yourself in some of the best spots and gigs that we've got available to us in this area. And we're pretty lucky to be in this area. It's not just like any other major metropolitan part of America. There's a special thing going on here. Let's jump around a little. I'm not going to do this linearly because first of all, I think the last time we worked together that I can recall was a big show we did for you at Comedy Cluster over at which is a Comedy Central product. And I believe it was Jerry Seinfeld and Kevin Hart, and they mix in I think it was what was it? It was Ice Cube. Maybe
we did have Ice Cube there,
and I think Primus played, and the Gore guy, and it was super fun. And what's your experience with the Comedy Central, doing shows for Comedy Central? I would imagine it adds an extra layer of uniqueness for you trying to deal with the corporate side of that, and they're broadcasting, and they have their little guy jumping from, and this is a multi-stage function. It's very large. How do you enjoy the Comedy Cluster stuff? It
was really fun. It was a great project to be a part of. Tom Howard was the producer that year with Superfly, and it was great having that experience working with him. It was really great that was an event that the permitting was really tricky to close down so many streets for so many days. So my part of it was more dealing with the city agencies and stuff, and it was every now and again you get these projects that are kind of challenging, and you're like, I'm going to sink my teeth into this, and I'm going to learn something, do something new outside of my normal comfort zone, and that was definitely one of those shows.
Well, I remember because we had large stages, and we were providing stacks and racks and control services for both stages, and the act would play on this stage, and then the crowd would kind of shift over to that stage, and set change would happen on this stage. And these were some large acts; these weren't just anybody.
Right.
I particularly enjoyed the Maya Rudolph thing where she came out and they
Yes.
they sang the old with Fred Armisen on the
Yeah.
drums, and this really good band, and they were singing the kind of jingoistic 70s commercials. That was fantastic. But the lineup, the comedy, it was music, comedian, music,
Yes.
large comedian,
Yeah.
Bill Burr, so on. But at your shop, because I failed to mention that you also are the venue manager over at probably one of the coolest places in the area, is Bill Graham's Civic Auditorium. That place was stocked to the roof, to the rafters with
We were
comedians. It was
full.
just non-stop. It was incredible. What an amazing show, and a great fun time over a period of days, and a lot of work. And so, yeah, I definitely acknowledge your challenges on that and how you would make these things come off seemingly, they look effortless, and I know that that's not the case. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but we have such a great team. And that show specifically, we partnered with Superfly, and they really had the lead with Viacom and Comedy Central. But, the talent buyers, the programmers, the creative design. We had this big South Park installation.
Yeah, that was
that
amazing.
was in the middle of the plaza.
I think there was even a Jerry Seinfeld creation of like in a giant tent that was his apartment.
Yes.
Yeah, that was fascinating.
Yeah, and we had recreated Patty's Pub
Right.
from It's Always Sunny. Just the creativity, being a part of something that really took that space and optimized and programmed the fourth floor, the first floor, outside, inside, and the operational challenges. Seeing a really first-class operations team deal with lining people up and getting them into a space and out of a space and making sure the fire marshal's happy with it. And there's a lot of moving pieces to that.
Oh my God.
And that made it such a fun project to be a part of.
It's almost an understatement because that was such a complex, multifaceted, multi-space.
And throwing in that it was like a 30 camera shoot on top of it.
Absolutely.
Like, oh, by the way, you're doing a live broadcast out of your venue. It was tricky.
You pulled it off. It was amazing. And you've done it multiple times, and it's always an exceptional event. What's it like being the event? I personally love the Bill Graham Civic Auditorium. It's been named in memoriam to an amazing man. It's one of the better spots to see a show at in our area. You get a lot of the even bands that almost seem like they'd be too big for the size of the space, which it's very large space. But everybody seems to want to stop in. I've seen everybody from Slayer to Depeche Mode there. It's crazy. And what's it like for you? Do you enjoy that work?
I love it. I love that building. I love the team we have. I love the people that I work with. It's so great that we've turned into the EDM capital of San Francisco. I'm not quite sure how that happened. And
it's a sign of the times.
But even those shows are really fun, and they're challenging.
Energy,
It's a challenging audience to work with. There's some security issues that we have to deal with that make it a lot of fun. It's not just rinse and repeat. It's not the same ho hum. I'm going to work today. Got another show.
Right.
Every show is a different day, a different set of personalities, a different set of challenges, and we all have fun working on it. So it's awesome.
And the makeup of your company, I was reading, doing some research on you, and I found a Forbes article on you and the folks that you have surrounded you, and it was largely the gist of the article. Maybe you could inform us, enlighten us on this. Is that it's largely a female-run operation?
We do have a lot of women that are running it, and I don't think that was an intentional thing of like, oh, let's try to be more diverse here. But in actuality, we are a pretty diverse company. Sherry Wasserman is the president of Another Planet Entertainment. And she's like a true legend. And she and Greg Perloff and Steve Welcome, the three principals who started the company, have so much history and so much, the depth of their knowledge is just incredible and amazing leadership.
Yeah, it's a really well-run operation, and I know as a vendor to many of the things you do, and when you need us, you there's this weird sense of security that it's going to be everything's going to be dialed in, it's going to be well run, and as long as you bring your A game, that everything's going to be fine, because you don't want to come to your shows and not be doing your job.
Well, we all have that pride that comes from coming from Bill Graham Presents.
Yes, ma'am.
And the standards that he set, and the goal was for the people coming through the front door, the artists coming through the back door, that to just give them the best opportunity to have a good day. Set the stage, so to speak, literally and metaphorically, for come in and enjoy yourself. Treat people the way you want to be treated.
Absolutely. And I know that you're big on giving them the tools to be successful and to put on great shows. And that's always a kind of a facet of what's particular. I know other production houses can do stuff, entertainment companies, but I just haven't seen you put on a bad show. I mean, and I've been to quite a few over the many years, many decades even. And so it's really a tip of the hat to you and your crew and your team, and how well Another Planet entertainment gigs go. They're fascinating. You get some great artists. We have some history, so it's tricky history because it's a rough place to work. I'm speaking of Alcatraz Island.
Yes. Yeah.
Of course, you run those shows that they're not very frequent, but when they happen, they're a big to do, and it takes a lot to do it.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on Alcatraz Island and doing work out there?
It's not a great venue.
No,
it's not.
There's nothing forgiving
it's hard.
about it.
It's very hard.
Cold and
it's
the
cold.
stairs
It's hard.
and,
It's wet.
Reminds me of a prison or something.
Yeah, it's got no
it's
vibe.
kind of like that, yeah.
I think there are some things that, there's a part of all of us that are in this industry that succeed is that we're like master puzzle, where it was super duper challenging.
Yeah.
The last show at Candlestick Park, there are just these some events where it's like, wow, this is a really hard space to work in, but of course we're going to make it work. We're going to make it the best we can.
Remind me,
some days are harder than others.
And Alcatraz will throw every conceivable roadblock in your way just by the limitations it has. The power issues, the load in out is
getting
vicious.
all the gear over.
Yeah, I thought Red Rocks was rough because it's such a tough load in. No, try working at Alcatraz. It's although there's a kind of je ne sais quoi, there's kind of a thing going on there where you want to do it and you want to see how it will go, but it's really tricky. But also the shows that I've seen go on there, which I believe at least one of them was Creed and T-Mobile or something.
Right.
And I think our dear friend Greg Price was out in front of house, and George was running the cruise, and you were running the whole deal. And it was an extraordinary, when the show was happening and everything had been sorted, before loadout. It was fantastic. It was very cold.
Right.
But it's hard to have, to not make that backdrop, that whole, the ambiance of the place, not kind of blend into the show and give it a little something extra. But it's extraordinarily challenging. You mentioned Treasure Island, and we've done some big shows with you out there, and they can be very hit or miss. Not the show itself, but the rain and weather and the wind coming off of the bay.
Treasure Island might be haunted. I don't want to really sound like a cuckoo or anything, but every time we did a show out there, something happened, whether it was a sewer line or a sewage line, and now I know the difference. A power line that landed on a porta potty truck one year.
Oh man!
Stage break, monsoon.
Yeah, the monsoon.
And we have had, and I still love it. I was out there a week ago, and I'm like, I can't wait to come back here and do another show. And they're like, what's wrong with you? One of these days, it's going to be awesome.
Well, it's partly
going to live up to its potential.
Maybe
and
a masochistic streak that you have,
good.
but also the setting itself. It's such a unique. It's not dissimilar to Alcatraz, yet another island in the bay, but it's got more square footage for sure. But you throw in some great shows out there. The train show is it was a fun show. But it's thrown up a couple little, moments of,
We definitely had some learning experiences, some growing moments at Treasure Island.
It sounds like you did it right then. We were always learning, And do you believe Treasure Island's ever going to come back online? It's been kind of dormant.
I don't know, because like I said, I was out there last week delivering toys to the community center, and
sweet.
it's so absolutely torn up. Like, it's almost unrecognizable how much development and construction is going on over there. So I hope when it's all said and done, there's still a space that can get activated, because it was a wonderful place to go hang out for a day and see a show.
Sure.
It wasn't always a wonderful place to do a show, but
It's
very fond memories of it.
I'm glad. Myself as well. So we have a couple that, to familiarize the audience that's not familiar with it, we have a couple large shows that are put on in Golden Gate Park. And when I say large, I hope I'm not overstating. You'll correct me if I'm wrong, but it can be 75 to 110,000 people. Like Outside Lands comes to mind.
Outside Lands is like 80-ish.
About 80?
Yeah.
And you EP that show. You executive produce that?
I'm part of the producer team. I mean, that is a huge machine, a team of people that,
How many stages?
I think 6 stages.
Yeah. No, that's
more, yeah.
And who was your headliner last year?
Who was our headliner last
The Who,
year?
right?
It was,
And Metallica,
yes,
I
it was
believe.
Metallica, my fave.
Yeah.
They are my faves.
You enjoy Metallica?
I do.
I did not know that about you.
Yes, they're
Yeah.
actually one of my absolute faves. And it's their hometown, it's their backyard.
Absolutely.
So when Metallica comes to the show, whatever they need, they're going to get to the best of our ability.
Well, they're the largest touring rock band in the
Yeah,
world.
they're awesome.
Them and the Foo Fighters, I would say.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you put bands, and your lineups are spotless. I mean, you have some incredible lineups the way you guys put those shows together, and different things happening in different parts. To help the audience understand, Golden Gate Park is massive.
Golden Gate Park is actually larger than Central Park in New York, which
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
And we take over the whole western side of the park. And because it is in a neighborhood, there are people who live across the street from our entrance. So we have to be really cognizant and aware of the impact to the community. And because of that, we have a very compressed load-in schedule. We load in everything in like just about 2 weeks, which is tricky because, all the turf protection that we have to lay down, all the street closures have to be layered in a certain way. Operationally, it's a very challenging site, but it's I think the most beautiful venue I've ever been in. I love it.
Oh yeah, it is extraordinary to I've almost always worked out there in some capacity for different vendors, that we worked with through the past that you're aware of, the local folks. So I haven't really seen it as a spectator, but I've always been fortunate enough a couple years to be the guy that drives the artists around in the Cushman.
Right.
And so so you kind of get a different view of that as you're kind of parting the seas of people and trying to get from stage to stage, and I think the last time I think there was actually 7 stages, but fascinating place, beautiful place, trees and pretty things everywhere and lovely people having a good time. And again, you put on some great rock shows out there. I mean,
we've had some amazing headliners.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney headlines,
That's right.
Radiohead, LCD Sound System, some great EDM headliners like Dead Mouse and the Axwell and Grosso, the guys from Swedish House Mafia. It's really a diverse, there's something for everybody. Musically, you're going to find new bands that you haven't heard of before. You're going to, we've had Willie Nelson and
That's right.
Edie Brickell played last year with Paul Simon. It's an awesome show.
They're married, correct?
They are, yeah.
Yeah, how sweet. Yeah, good for them.
So they came for the weekend. She played one day, he played the next day, and then they were there all weekend.
No, that's kind of perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know when that you've done kind of through the years different projects under, I believe, the Another Planet Entertainment banner. When, for example, there's a wonderful a place I absolutely adore for the kind of mid-sized show in Oakland called the Fox Theater.
Yes.
And it was one of those amazing old 20s places or whatever decade it came from, but it needed a bunch of construction. It needed to be remodeled. And I know that you went in there, again, one of my favorite places, going around in the catacombs up there above the pineapples. It's just fantastic. You went in and handled the staff development for that job?
We were brought in by the city of Oakland. The building's actually owned by the city of Oakland, and it was the last big redevelopment project where this venue had been sitting vacant for 40 years.
Yeah.
And it was really rough on the inside. There had been a fire, there had been floods.
Oh, I can
It
imagine.
was really in bad shape. And the city and a developer in Oakland, Phil Tagami, put together this $70 million budget. They've got money from a variety of sources to do a major renovation of the space and also create the Oakland School for the Arts, which share that address with us.
Oh, no, I didn't. I wasn't aware of that.
So we have a really great internship program with the Oakland School for the Arts there. That was a really great project to be involved with.
So I remember the number at the time was being thrown around was like 12 million. They really spent 70 million.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can see it though.
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
that place is beautiful.
It's done so well.
Yeah,
The
right?
craftsmanship.
Oh,
I
my
remember
God.
we had scaffolding going up to the ceiling. The whole ceiling is plaster work, and we had these artisans that came in that recreated all the different, the filigrees and all the detail work,
Yeah.
and then painted everything with like 7 shades of brown on the scaffolding. And I asked the guy one day, I'm like, do you like smoke anything? Like you're up there all day with 7 tiny paintbrushes painting the whole ceiling. He's like, no, they don't let us do that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're doing good work, bud.
Well,
Thank you.
it turned out incredibly.
Yeah,
I mean, it's one of the
it's
coolest spots to go
very,
see,
very
and I love
beautiful.
those old 20s theaters. And you mentioning the ceiling. If you're in the pit, if you're up say front few rows and you look straight up, it's got to be 40, 50, maybe more. I don't know what the actual number is, but it's really a large enclosed space, and some of the best shows. The Queens of the Stone Age and guys come through there, and it feels intimate, but at the same time, rock show. Big rock show.
Well,
Yeah.
same with
And
the theater. I mean, the 50th anniversary that you guys did at the Fox Theater must have been incredible.
Yeah, the Fox is, I did a tour with Jamie Foxx in 2007, the last proper tour I went out on.
Yeah.
And it was theaters and arenas,
Sure.
which was very groundbreaking at the time because we had this flexible set that could work in an arena. We sell out the SAP Center, San Jose, or it's a tour all around the country. Or it could go into theaters. So the idea was that we had 6 trucks with us, but everything was flexible. So it could be a 2-truck day or a 4-truck day or a 6-truck day.
Very clever.
Very clever, really
Yeah.
smart. But that was right before we opened the Fox Theater in 2009. So basically I went on a theater tour before we really got into the heart of it with the architects and the design for the Fox. And that helped a lot to what
Sure.
don't we want?
Yeah.
Well, as a woman on tour, I want a bathroom that can lock in a clean shower with hot water.
Not unreasonable.
Not unreasonable, but hard to find, remarkably. So one of the things that we get a lot of comments on is like, wow, the bathrooms at the Fox are so nice. And
They're almost- I
that's
would
my
say
little piece
beautiful.
of yes, we did make nice bathrooms with hot water that can lock.
You did very good.
Yeah.
I know you have a relationship or maybe a previous relationship with the Greek Theater, in Berkeley, a very, I would say, probably nationally famous venue.
Yes.
I know a lot of artists love to play there. What's your opinion of the Greek Theater?
I love the Greek Theater.
It's
It's
a
such a
great
great
place.
place to
Yeah.
work. It's so...
Really nice.
You just feel like you're so far removed. You feel like you're out in the country. We've seen deer and wild turkeys walking through Loden.
That is absolutely right.
And it doesn't feel like you're in a big major city. And it's just the acoustics of the space, the way it was designed as an actual Greek theater in 1903 when it opened. It's a wonderful place to do
The
shows.
tradition in that place is just almost, it's just, you roll in and you just feel it. I mean, it kind of envelops you. And it's just almost you feel the responsibility of getting it right.
Yeah.
And it's a very special venue. I can't state this enough to the audience. You really do have been involved in some of the most iconic places in Northern California. And that's a rare thing. I also know that you have I believe you do artist relations, and you work with another very large festival that's known as Bottle Rock out of Napa. What's that like for you?
We do not do Bottle Rock.
Oh, God,
That's
I was
the opposite
wrong.
of us. We do the Life is Beautiful Festival in Las Vegas, which is an amazing festival. And it started out with Tony Hsieh, who just passed away recently, who is the founder of Zappos. He saw that downtown Las Vegas was really seedy and Skid Row.
Yeah.
That's probably not a polite thing to say these days, but it was really down on its luck. And he wanted to revitalize it. And one of the things he did was create this festival and it happens on the city streets in Las Vegas. So every year the footprint's a little different because there's a hotel over there now, or they closed that parking lot. But the artwork that got brought in, there's this huge art component to it, and the murals and artwork that are brought in for the festival stay up, and they've helped to create this neighborhood and community. It's great. It's like downtown Las Vegas is a super fun place to hang out.
How do you think that compares to like the other gigs you do, like more of the Genentech stuff?
We have a big special events department with Another Planet, and every year for I think it's like 12 or 13 years, maybe we've done this big, at the Oracle Stadium where the Giants play, we do a big corporate picnic for 25,000 people with a company called Genentech. Mm-hmm. And it's so fun because they don't tell their employees who's going to play at the party.
Correct.
So it's this big secret. Yeah. And they're very, very serious about it. And we assign a number to each of the acts, and we only refer to them like, was that for Act 1 or for Act 2? And every year we kind of will change it up. Sometimes the headliner is Act 1, sometimes they're Act 4. But before gear comes into the venue, we have to go through the truck with gaffer tape and cover up all the names and tell all the guys on the crew, you can't wear your crew shirt, you can't have anything with your band name on it. And then when the CEO comes out and announces, and now here's Bruno Mars, everybody loses their mind.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, the artists because we've been lucky enough to be included in some of these events, they're always amazing artists.
Yeah.
I mean, like top-notch artists. I know some of our audience is aware of that, but some of the corporate gigs, and especially because we're lucky enough to be around some very large corporations in the area, from Silicon Valley to the Bay Area, put on some amazing shows,
right.
and they don't skimp on the talent or the funds, and that's probably one of the really premier corporate gigs.
Yeah, that's a super fun event.
And
it's tied into, they have a program called Genentech Gives Back, where there's a whole week of their staff going out and doing volunteer work, and this is sort of the culmination of that week. So the great equalizer when you're talking to an artist and you're advancing that show is like, these are the guys that are curing cancer.
Yeah.
So we all have our trials and tribulations, and it's hard being on the road, and sometimes load-ins are crummy and there's no parking spot or catering, whatever.
Sure.
But let's set aside your problems today and look at what's real in the world, and let's do a really nice party for the people who've cracked the human genome and are trying to cure cancer.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that better myself. No, really. And I think you set it up so that everybody can win. Your vendors that you bring in really are top notch, and they provide quality services. And I like to think I know my brother, who usually you interact with on these types of things, goes out of his way to first keep the anonymity of the bands. We do the same thing in here on I'm sure you noticed the mini whiteboards that we have that indicate what trucks, what shows, who's doing what when it's happening. We don't use the names of the bands. We are very careful. We try not to let our crew know what's up. We get kind of blind input lists and stage plots, that don't really say who this is.
Right.
Although I won't lie. We'll kind of take a stage plot and be like, wow, that looks like Stevie Wonder.
Right. Yes. Wait a minute. I see an organ over here.
Yeah. So we can't help ourselves but to try to guess. But often, it's almost as much of a surprise to us, as it is to the audience. Those are fantastic events, and you do a hell of a job putting them on. I mentioned earlier that you've been doing this for over 30 years, and that you've done over 10,000 concerts.
Yeah.
And had millions of participants in these events. I'm curious, from your point of view, if you had a favorite show. And it could be different than the favorite artist question, because I'm curious about both. Do you have a favorite artist? I think you may have mentioned that it's Metallica, that you enjoy them a great deal.
I do.
They put on a hell of a show.
Their production values, the music that they put out.
Yeah.
If you think about bands that have been around for 40 years, and how relevant they are and how their ticket selling prowess and the entertainment value that you get from them.
Yeah.
With it's still fresh, it's still new, they're still putting out new music. They're in a league of their own, and I really enjoy working with them. They're very nice people. Their organization is really talented and super all pro, like the best of the best. And there's some acts that you work with, Metallica, Stevie Wonder, Paul McCartney, where there's this sort of like this sense of duty of like, I can't screw this up.
So that's a fair statement.
Paul McCartney's going to be here. I better get it right. So like everybody kind of like pulls in together and you stand up a little straighter and you want to do your job a little better because you want to meet their level of excellence.
Yeah.
And that makes for a really fun day.
I couldn't agree with you more. They are known for, Metallica, to their credit, and they're so good on so many levels. But to their credit, they bring a big show. They don't mess around.
Yeah.
Their lighting rig, their PA is ginormous, and they always go way to the next level. And I've only seen through the years that they just keep kind of outdoing themselves from what they had done previously. And so, as it relates for, bang for your buck, go see Metallica.
Right. Yes.
They put on a remarkable shows. So that's your favorite artist and favorite gig?
I
You have an individual gig where you're like...
favorites. I mean, Paul McCartney at Candlestick Park was very notable. It was very hard.
Yeah.
And it was the last show at Candlestick.
Right.
It felt like the last show at Candlestick. Is anybody home anywore? I could use some help here. So it was challenging. It was great. It was historic.
It was a magnificent show.
It was a great.
Like you said, rough place to work, though.
It was challenging.
The weather's also usually a little tricky there. And
when you see a piece of 4x8 plywood just kind of like skipping its way across the parking lot, there's a wind situation that you got to deal with.
Yeah, it either stopped home runs or made them happen, is what I always call it. But yeah, it was a special place. But yeah, what a kind of lucky thing to get to be involved in the last show before they tore it down, and it be with such an amazing artist, Paul McCartney.
Yeah, and it happened, I think it was 2 or 3 days after Outside Lands. So we had the stage build at Outside Lands, and then that same group of steel hands essentially just rolled straight into Candlestick. And then the weekend of Outside Lands was when we were doing the steel build and the crane days at Candlestick. And
you must have had a tired crew.
Trying to keep track of all of it, and it was a lot.
Oh, I bet you were on your toes that weekend.
Yeah, everybody was. Our poor operations team that they were like, I don't think I'm going to need you out there till like Wednesday. Take a day off, and then Monday morning, like, I need you here right now.
Get down here, save me.
Yeah, so it was tricky.
A big part of your job. We kind of mentioned it earlier, or maybe it was earlier before the show started, and it's a critical part of your job, of the work, really, of putting on big shows, is dealing with the police, permitting, dealing with the local agencies, county, city, whatever it may be, and fire. Talk to us about that.
They all have a job to do, and it's for a good reason.
Yeah.
I know the folks that work for me, we all know what the fire marshal wants to see. So let's have that ready for them before they walk through the door. Because it doesn't make a lot of sense to like, oh, they're not going to like that, but maybe they won't notice. No, they're going to notice, and we know better.
That's right.
So I really enjoy working with the city agencies. I've been doing it for a long time. I have a lot of friends in different agencies that I enjoy working with. My work with the police department specifically has given me a unique perspective on what they do, and I'm on the captain's advisory board for the district that we're in. And that has, especially after, 2020 was a tough year for everybody, law enforcement,
sure.
Black Lives Matter, George Floyd. I mean, all of those protests and struggles hopefully will change the trajectory of how things operate in this country to a certain degree, but it's tough, and it's interesting to see other points of view and try to gain some empathy into how things are happening for people in the world.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, let's hope that those things have made an impression that lasts and some changes come as a result. because I don't think as a country we can keep going forward without addressing some of these critical
Right.
issues. I don't see how that's doable. You've spent a lot of time in the game. You've reached really the pinnacle of it in my mind. You couldn't really be any more important to what happens in the concert industry. You mentioned that we're in this unique time with some political stuff, but I think what's affecting you and I in our business, our industry more is the COVID.
Right.
And I was curious, with your vast experience and the knowledge that you have of the business, what do you see is the future of our business?
Well, I wish that they would just call Charlie Hernandez and send him all the vaccine and say, hey, why don't we put
Right.
just a bunch of roadies in charge of vaccine?
We'll get it done.
Because it would happen. Like, we
Get it
never
done
miss
quick.
doors. The show always starts on time.
That's right.
It will happen.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's kind of, it's it's so complex. It's like this grieving over the loss of our industry, wondering if we're going to get back to the way it was. And even when we do get back to that point, it has to be different because too much time has passed.
Yeah.
So not everybody is going to make it. The same people that, our last show at the Bill Graham Civic was February 28th. And I know that when we come back, all of those people aren't going to make it to be with us.
That's probably true. Yeah.
Some people have moved back home. Some people have chosen to go back to school. Some people are looking for other careers. I mean, the financial ramification and the hardship that people are dealing with in our industry specifically is so much harder than restaurant workers. And, you don't want to make light and say, well,
No.
The barber can open up his side door and take somebody in. The restaurant can do takeout.
We're not
Sound
getting
and
away
lighting
with.
guys can't do anything.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I just hope that they can get it together with the vaccine rollout and get us back to some ability to gather by next summer.
Well, it has been a little bit. I know that there was some talk of 20 million people being immunized by the 1st or December 31st of last year. And they're, I think, maybe at a quarter of that.
Right.
And so that may be the bluster of the former administration and some of the stuff, the way they tended to describe things a little over, maybe exaggerate or outright fib. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but hopefully we've seen what's not working and that will go forward, because it's for us and the people watching and our friends, it's critical that happened. And then even then, it's my impression that, say we get this all on lock and we dial it in, at the tail end or in the middle of summer, let's say optimistically. I suspect there's going to be a group of people, some small percentage, that are probably not going to be comfortable with coming back into large gatherings. Right. So we're going to lose that. And then, of course, the abundance, you may have noticed the abundance of streaming services. And so that lane, I think it will taper off, but it won't die. And so they'll be able to get their information and their entertainment from there. So we'll have to make some adjustments. And one thing that we were both are mindful of and we were speaking about before we went on air was that is the nature of who we are and what we do. We are malleable, I guess is the word. We always find a way to jam the puzzle together, make it happen, and open by doors,
Right.
And so, and I tell you, with your leadership and your incredible experience and the things that you've proven to us and done before and kept us all together and getting it done and always making everybody look good at the end of the day is invaluable, and you're precious to us, and we really, really, truly appreciate you spending the time and coming in and seeing us tonight. You're a fascinating woman, and we adore you.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind.
Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah.
It's great to have you.
It was a lot of fun.
Thanks
a bunch.
All right, let's do some last minute business here. So I've noticed an uptick, guys, in some of the, I don't know. Oh, I got to shout out to literally a man I adore. I absolutely love this guy. This is Charlie Zaricki. Charlie Zaricki, you, sir, are a badass. I hope you know how crazy. He's one of the old guys in the game. He's kind of taught the newer guys how to act right. And he's always the voice of reason when something's jumping off of one of my pages or something crazy. I love this guy. He's a big supporter of this show, and we absolutely adore him. Judy Heyman has checked in. And I think Steve Orgain wanted to. Did Steve Orgain have any questions? Because it's not too late to rush one in. Well, Steve was telling me when he was here earlier
Steve said hi,
his
Judy.
deep fondness for you, and that he might.
We've been through some stuff.
Yeah,
Steve is saved by bacon on more than one
Yeah,
occasion.
he adores you. He absolutely adores you, and he was not in any way. Tony Lewis, hi buddy. He was not any way shy about expressing his affection today, and so I told him if I saw a question coming up that I would.
Noel Perry's
honor it.
birthday.
Who's
Yes, that was awesome.
Oh, he told out on in Half Moon Bay on the 700 acres.
We went to San Gregorio. We took over this 400-acre parcel and turned it into a 3-day music festival. But it was because it was private property, and this got like a super fancy party. Everything had to be. Like, you couldn't show any cables. You couldn't show proof that there was actually a production happening. It just had to be this mirage of everything wrapped in burlap, so it blended into the hillside. It was insane.
He actually
a lot of fun.
He reminisced about that show. He said it was Crosby, Stills, and Nash. And
it was. Nora Jones played piano for the dinner party on Friday night.
Oh, that's great.
And Crosby, Stills, and Nash were the headliners. Morris Day and the Time. And then we had a Sunday morning gospel. It was a 2-day camp out. We created terraces on the hillside and put up 300 very fancy glamping tents.
Yeah, he mentioned that. He called them bungalows.
It was a lot. Yes, the bungalows. It was all very sweet. And we had Mickey Hart do a drum circle by the fire one night. I mean, it was really a great event. It was a lot of fun.
See what I'm saying, guys? She puts on some of the craziest, logistically challenging, amazing, giant things. It's again, thank you for being here. You're a spectacular person. Wonderful. The great John Del Rio. John, I wanted to speak about one of your ongoing concerns you have with my brother, because I've noticed an uptick in I don't know, bad energy on my site, people politically posting, which is a giant no-no. Listen, you're having some trouble dealing with the current goings on. Please reach out to Loving Hands for Stagehands. John's very tough administrator on this page, but it's a place where for us people, for us, the industry, to go to and sort out some stuff, maybe get some advice, get some kind attention, and look where there's some resources for you to maybe reach into some other ways of dealing with things. And our dear brother, I mean, he's a mountain of a man, the sweetest guy, the biggest voice, and really, I can't say enough about this guy. He's a legend in the staging business, and he thought it was critical to open up this page, and it's really taken off. It's in a very short period, it's grown very large. And so if this is something that sounds appealing to you, reach out to Loving Hands for Stagehands on Facebook. It's a closed group for stagehands and roadies, and it's a great place to be. Our good friends at Big Love Army, of course, that's Rick Allen from Def Leppard and his lovely wife, Lauren Allen Moreau, or Moreau Allen. I'm not sure the order of that, but they're amazing people. And they have a similar mission. It's a little off the side of it. It's kind of a place to go get kind of a daily affirmation and a little bit of a meme-based hug. And it's very, very sweet and kind. They run Project Resiliency and Raven Drum Foundation, which is similar to what Mary was just talking about, where they kind of do drum circles for veterans and folks that need some healing. And it's a very, very good thing. And I cannot recommend it enough. I want to shout out to Frank Rizzo out there in the Hawaiian Islands and Pacific Staging. He's a badass, and whenever you go over there, that's the guy who throws up your stage, and he's just a good friend of the show. We appreciate him. Of course, to remind you, coming up on January 23rd on Nugs TV, produced by Sound Image and Rick Allen and Lauren Moreau, is the Big Love Benefit Project concert. And it should be a lot of fun. We've got a lot of stars that appeared and played and sent in video messages and a whole bunch of stuff from, gosh, help me with this, is Winona Judd, Billy Idol, Matt Soren from the amazing drummer for the Cult, Velvet Revolver, Guns N' Roses, and he's funny and talented guy. A whole handful, Clayton Q, a bunch of folks helped with this, and really 400 years worth of experience. We did the math on it of some straight up badasses behind the scenes that made this happen. So it's a really good thing. Please check it out. That's January 23rd on Nugs TV, the Big Love Benefit Concert. Our good friends, Jim Newhouse, and he's the CEO of EAW. I sit in front of these guys because I friggin' love EAW as a American manufacturer, one of the best. And they make what I think is one of the best PAs, which, of course, is the Anya Adaptive Systems. check their page out. It's EAW Users Group. It's really great. And a little shout out to our good friends over at Signal to Noise podcast. This is a place for you guys to nerd out. They were going on, I think, their 80th show. They just interviewed Brad Maddox of Rush yesterday, and I think they're going to take a great price on here in a minute. It's a great page. That's, if you, like I said, if you want to nerd out and you know mastering and mixing tips, it's a place to be. And our dear friend, one last time, Steve Orgain from Chef's Touch. He was in with lunch today, just visiting. He's got an account nearby. He's the sweetest guy on the planet. His wife had a little thing happen lately. I want to send love out to his wife and hope that she heals quick. She's a sweet lady, and it's funny how bad things happen to the best people. So I hope that she's doing well and that she's better soon. I want to, of course, thank my wonderful crew. I couldn't do it without them. We do this thing every Thursday at 7 p.m. for you guys, for us. Everybody kind of gets their needs met, and it makes us very happy. We hope that you join us next week. Now, I am blacking out on, do you have any idea who next week's guest is? It's somebody. I just remembered. Andrew Freed. He's taught at Expressions. He's a master engineer. He's worked for Leon Bridges. And then not Lloyd. Lloyd's around. Leon Bridges.
That's someone different.
Yeah. He's the actor.
Yeah.
Jeff Bridges' father.
Yes.
But he's an incredible guy and really fixed in his opinions and a straight shooter and has some stuff to share with us. He'll be next week's guest, audio engineer to some of the bigger acts in the game. And we're going to talk a little bit about the benefits of going to these SAE, Full Sail, Expressions type places. He's taught there, and I need some turning around on my thinking on that, I think. So we're going to bring him in.
Dude, you didn't call it Full Fail. This is the first time.
You know, I thought you would leave that alone. So I think if you watch the show, I'm a little biased. I'm kind of brought up the old school way, hands on, and old dudes throwing microphones at me when I was getting it wrong. And I'm kind of like that method. maybe it's not the best. And Billy Idol, I think I said Billy Idol, Jorge Eduardo. And thank you for tuning in, Darcy Lewis. We will see you next week with Andrew Freed and the team. And, until then, take care of yourself, take care of each other, be kind. Thanks. Good evening.